Welcome to John's Tarot. This isn't fortune telling, it isn't prediction, and it isn't about escaping the ordinary. This is a space where we slow down long enough to notice structure in our lives, in our history, and in ourselves. The symbols don't tell us what to do, they give us a place to land for meeting. And here we explore the maps. Tarot, the I Ching, the runes, not as authorities, but as mirrors. What emerges is already there. We're just learning to see it more clearly. If you're walking your own path of integration, if you're caring less than you used to, or if you're simply curious about how structure becomes alive, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Hi, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, and welcome to John's Tarot. I hope you all had a good week out there. It was kind of a busy week for me, not a bad week, but a good week. As always, I've had some thoughts, and I got some thoughts to share with you. And sometimes my thoughts tend to go back to my early sobriety and things that happened to me back then. And I brought back something that I think is appropriate.
Oh, far out, man.
And I've been thinking, how did I get here from where I started? I mean, it's been a pretty strange trip for me. Had it having to do with Taoism and Buddhism and I Ching and tarot cards, as well as, standard education and hard work and dedication to what I'm doing and focus. And I'm kind of at a point now where I'm looking at retirement coming up, and not that that's a particularly big deal, but it's a transition. Maybe it is a big deal. And I've been busy in my 12-step program, and and I just wonder, how did this happen to me? How did I get here? And that's what I was reflecting on, and that's a little bit what I'm going to share with you today. I had an experience in early sobriety that I call the emergence of the observer, and I'm going to share that with you today. And the first time I had an opportunity to actually observe my own thoughts and my own thinking and see what kind of trouble I was really in. But this talk has a special meaning to it because it applies to many different challenges in life. So let me start off with my little prepared presentation. So this is a presentation. I call it "The System That Got Me Sober Works Everywhere." Most of us think our problems are about what we're doing. We think, I drink too much. I react too quickly. I make bad decisions. And the solution seems obvious. Just change the behavior. That's what I thought when I got sober. I thought, if I just stop drinking, everything will be okay. But what I discovered was something very different. It wasn't about what I was doing. It was about how I was thinking. And more importantly, how I was relating to my own thinking. When I first got sober, my path included a lot of different elements all at once. The 12-step organization gave me structure. My sponsor gave me guidance. I had already been exposed to Buddhism, and I'd been working with the I Ching for about a year. At the time, I didn't see this as a system. I only knew that my way wasn't working. I had tried to do it on my own. I could get a few days, maybe a week, but I couldn't hold it. So when the 12-step program showed up and the sponsor appeared, I didn't have a certainty, but I had something simpler. I thought to myself, this might work, because what I've been doing definitely doesn't work. There's a moment in recovery where you realize your current path is not survivable. For me, I call that the first threshold. That's the point where you can't go back, even if part of you wants to. From the outside, it looks like an easy decision, but from the inside, it's not. Because what you're really being asked to do is let go of the entire system that's been holding your life together, even if it's killing you. And I was in pretty sad shape. Unemployable, I always say I was. the uncola guy of recovery. It was unemployable, uneducated, unwashed, and an undesirable element of society. And you would think from that point it would be an easy decision. You would think I would be like, dude, wake up. But I really had a struggle with the decision. And I finally did make a decision, and that led me to that threshold I call the D-Day on the beach threshold. But about 2 months into sobriety, I was in this meeting, and there's a passage in the recommended text that talks about there being an actor on the stage. And if everyone would just do what I said, everything would work out perfectly. And something happened. I saw it. Not intellectually. I saw my thinking. And I realized, that's what I've been doing. And then a second realization came. If my thinking got me here, how can I trust it? That was the moment. That was the emergence of the observer. For the first time, I wasn't hiding inside my thinking. I was looking at it. And honestly, that scared me more than anything else. Getting sober was one threshold, but this was another. Because now the problem wasn't drinking. Now the problem was my thinking itself. That's what I call the second threshold. And this is where a lot of people struggle. Because now you're standing in a place where your old system doesn't work. Your thinking isn't reliable, and the new system hasn't fully formed yet. This is where the rubber meets the road. At some point, it became very clear to me. My problem isn't drinking. My problem is my thinking. And the drinking is just one expression of that. It's just kind of a downstream expression of my thinking. All my thinking will automatically lead me back to drinking. And that changed everything. Because now you're not trying to just stop a behavior. You're working with the system that produced it. Looking back, I can see I didn't just get sober. I had 4 things working together. I had structure. I had the 12-step program that gave me containment, something to hold me when I couldn't hold myself. I had some guidance. I had a sponsor that gave me borrowed thinking when I couldn't trust my own mind. Reflection. The I Ching gave me a way to step back and see patterns instead of reacting automatically. The I Ching was very useful in my early sobriety and is still very useful today. And then also I developed distance from thought. Commonly in 12-step organizations, they encourage meditation and prayer, where you have observer awareness. That was the key. Learning that a thought is not the same thing as truth. The big realization I had this week was about the distance from thought. At the time, I thought I'd stumble into all this, but looking back, each piece served a function. Structure stabilized me. Guidance corrected me. Reflection slowed me down. Distance from thought freed me. Together, they allowed my system to reorganize. My psyche, my way of thinking, my way of relating to the world. That's my system. And here's the part that surprised me that surprised me years later. This system doesn't apply just to sobriety. It applies everywhere. You could take this system and apply it to anxiety, apply it to relationships, apply it to stress, apply it to decision making, to different problems. The same underlying pattern. When thinking is unreliable and behavior follows it, you need structure, guidance, reflection, and distance from thought. So if you're finding yourself stuck in patterns, repeating the same things over and over, it may not be about what you're doing. It may be about how you're relating to your own thinking. And sometimes the first real step isn't changing your behavior, it's learning to step back and observe. I remember when I had the observer appear, emerge. I had never really looked at my own thinking prior to that. I had always just gone with my thoughts and thought that was reality. So for me to take that moment and step back and actually see my thinking as a result of that study I was in, well, it was really an eye opener. And I remember that as being a real turning point in my early sobriety, in my early recovery. And I think because I came into it in such a unusual way, from my Eastern traditions, from Buddhism and from Taoism and from the I Ching, is what really kind of confused me and kind of lost me. But let me repeat the exact pattern, the exact how exactly I did this: structure, guidance, reflection, distance from thought. Because I think it's worth repeating. And this is kind of my 4 pillars of recovery. And I'm not discovering something new. I didn't discover something that wasn't already there. I'm just articulating it in a clear fashion so I can understand what happened. Really, the Buddhism and the Taoism and the I Ching and the tarot kind of clouded the picture for me for many years. So the clarity of thought is what counts here. And that's why I'm bringing it up. And you can use this system to resolve all kinds of human problems. You can use it inside human problems such as anxiety and panic cycles. You could use it for chronic stress and burnout, for relation conflict patterns. You can use it inside compulsive behaviors like food, shopping, and cell phone screens. Decision paralysis and overthinking. You can use it for anger management and overreactivity. You can use it for identity transitions, like what I'm in right now, retirement and role changes. The common thread is that behavior isn't the root. The relationship to thought is. This system works because it addresses both sides: external support, structure, guidance, reflection, and an internal shift, distance from thought. And maybe this is the real second threshold. Not when life forces you to change, but when you realize you are not your thoughts. For me, that didn't happen all at once. I went through a period where everything felt meaningful. The tarot, the I Ching, the runes, and in some ways, that actually clouded my understanding. I thought I was being shown what reality was. But over time, something quieter emerged. I began to see these weren't telling me what to think. They were showing me how my mind was working. And that's a very different thing. That's where the observer comes in. The part of you that can step back and notice the thought, notice the interpretation, and not be pulled by it. From that place, structure forms. You begin to rely on something steady: structure, guidance, reflection, and the ability to observe your own mind. And what I found is this doesn't just apply to sobriety. It applies everywhere. Any place in life where you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or uncertain, the same structure can carry you through. Not by giving you answers, but by changing your relationship to your thinking. And maybe that's the real shift. Not that life becomes clear, but that you do. And from that place, you can move forward with a little more steadiness and a little more trust in yourself. Well, this is the part of the podcast where I do a little free tarot reading. I give a little free tarot spread. And today we're going to try to incorporate what I just talked about. And my ability to read tarot is a gift, an expression of divine love. And I'm here to share it with you in that same spirit. So the tarot spread is a real simple 3-card spread. Where am I? What I may not be seeing? And how do I move forward? And I'm going to have to pin it down to a specific period of time. Why don't I pin it down to that period of time when the observer first appeared in my life? Oh, that was 36 years ago. So, 36 years ago, what was I not seeing? Where was I? What was I not seeing? And how did I move forward? even though I discussed it, I'm interested to see what the tarot had up to say. So 36 years ago, when the Observer first appeared in my life, where was I? What was I not seeing? And how was it that I moved forward? Hey, I also want to thank, I notice I get a couple of listeners all the way from Australia and another listener out in Spain. I just want to say welcome to John's Tarot. Thank you for listening. Sometimes I get a little, I'm a human being, and sometimes I struggle with what I'm doing and how come I'm not getting much more listeners. But when I see I get worldwide listening, that cheers me up a great deal. So thank you for listening. So, 36 years ago, when the Observer first appeared, where was I? What was I not seeing? And how did I move forward? I'm going to cut the deck. And my first card is Judgment card. Second card is Page of Wands. Third card is the Ten of Pentacles. And let's do some runes. Throw some runes on that so I could see it clearly. Judgment. Where was I? Judgment. Odin, pray up his help guide this reading. For the Judgment, Page of Wands, Ace of Pentacles. For Judgment, what was I not seeing? And the rune is Jira. So Judgment always has to do with new ideas, new concepts, epiphanies, new possibilities for change. And that's where I was at that period of time. That thing where the Observer appeared to me was an epiphany, where I saw my own thinking. I was stunned. I was surprised. I was shocked. And and from that point forward, the Observer appeared. And though it was scary, I was able to move forward. And the rune Jira has to do with new beginnings, new seed, a seed just being planted, and it has to be nourished. And whenever I do the runes underneath this, it kind of gives a sense of timing and how these cards move. And that's where I was at that period of time. That was an epiphany, a new understanding, a new insight. And it was just the beginning. For the Page of Wands, the rune will be Ewaz. Ewaz looks like a horse. In fact, the letter M, it really signifies a horse. The Page of Wands, what was I not seeing at this time? What was I not seeing at that time was the fact that the Page of Wands has to do with independence, has to do with me moving. I didn't understand that I was moving forward in an independent fashion, not really supported by my family of origin and all the thinking I had been given in the past, but I was moving forward in a new direction on my own. And that the letter, the rune Ewaz has to do with moving forward, like on a horse, on a noble beast, in a noble way, moving forward with that independent way of being, an independent way of thought. That's what I was not seeing at the time. And how did I manage to move forward? The Ace of Pentacles was kind of appropriate. And then which usually has to do with new business opportunities, new growth, new beginnings. And the rune is Ewaz. I know that one is Ewaz. And that has to do, it looks like a kind of an inverted Z, a Z pointing in on top of itself. And it was a gift. That was a gift. That ability to see how my thinking worked and how to see how I related to the world and how to see that I was somewhat the victim of my thinking. That was a gift. That was, and to move forward, to be able to see that was a true gift. And the rune is Ewaz, which has to do with, it had to do with delay, waiting on the will of heaven. And that gift needed to continue to develop. And though it was a gift, and it was kind of a sudden insight, and it was just the beginning, but it had to develop in itself. And the way forward was a slow process. And that's what happened to me back then. That's what happened to me when the observer emerged. I had judgment, I had an epiphany, but it was just the beginning. The page of wands had to do with independent thought, independent way of being outside of my family system, and it was a noble way forward. And how to move forward, that was a gift, but I had to. It was a process. It was a slow process, and I had to move forward independently. Well, we are going to go ahead and wrap this up for today.
Goodbye, Professor Marvel, and thanks a lot.
It was my pleasure. Hey, I want to also say that I'm available to do readings if you would like to see where you are on your path of individuation, or you're in a transitional path, transitional moment in your life. I'd be happy to do some readings. I'm going to open that up to the audience. You can contact me at john@johnstarot.net, and we'll work something out. We can do this on Zoom. I could record it and send it to you. There's a lot of different ways it can be done. We'll work it out. But that's what I'm going to do from now on, and just start. I think I've laid down a proper foundation. If you especially look back at my past work, if you want a little insight into your own life, I'd be glad to help you. So let me know. And until next week, be careful, be cool, be kind, and remember, find faith, have courage, and I will talk to you all next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.